Now, I want to talk about my impressions of Final Fantasy XIV and Realm Reborn 2.0. And in this, there is good, there is bad, of course, there is stuff that's in between. Overall, the resultant effect that it's had on me, which is likely the most important bit, is that even though there were a few bits where the pacing is, you know, teleport to this zone, talk to NPC, do thing, go, and where the narrative isn't massive, right? Yeah. And those are all the things that the FF14 players warned me about. People talking about the filters, right? The resultant effect in me is I feel like my character is well positioned and situated in this world, where this world feels fairly real, where the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are a full real organization, where I, you know, have comrades who know who my character is, where all of these people have, you know, been through trials and tribulations together, and I know that the Scions of the Seventh Dawn aren't going to be thrown out in the next expansion for a new different thing. So, you know, I feel like I'm invested in a world and story that's going to grow with that core cast of characters, and that's even with me never having really heard what they actually sound like because of the voice actor change. Now, if I was to do some gameplay criticisms, it's going to be nothing that people who love FF like haven't told me about really. Yeah. Because like, oh yeah, right, I start playing Ninja, and yeah, level 38 is where I get my first regular AoE ability, and whatever it is where you get to use, you know, Earth, Heaven, to, you know, to the AoE one.
Death Blossom and Katom around level 30.
Yeah, and like my single target for the longest time was 1 button, then it was 2 buttons, and then it was 3 buttons. And like, yeah, the classes start off slow. The gameplay design of the, you know, of many of the quests is very simple. Stuff like that. Did that end up mattering massively? Well, sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. What mattered for me was the bits where, okay, so Ifrit was like pretty good. Titan, great. You know, some of the lead up to Titan was a bit slow. But once actually you go there, you go to Titan, and then obviously there's the post-Titan thing. And there's a post-Titan thing where it's like, oh shit, well, Garuda's coming, we need to deal with that. Now, that bit before Garuda, for me, was the biggest slog. The initial part of Korthus was like, yeah, just look, pre-Garuda, for me, that was the filter. I guess what they say, you know, I passed the filter. And, you know, Garuda was fun. And it's the post-Garuda cutscene where stuff really starts to get going. And you're like, oh, okay, shit, I can sort. And then, you know, Operation Archon, which is like the proper end of the game. Even though the gameplay of Castrum is not like the greatest, and the gameplay of Praetorium, other than the final, or when you're fighting Ultima, like when it's all, you know, red and fiery, basically ain't there, right? But even with those problems, I can see the pieces going together in a way where they're more than the sum of their parts. I can see this group of, you know, this group that I'm a part of grow and build. And, you know, you think to the opening cutscene of A Realm Reborn, where you see all of the, because I forget, there's Louis Swan, the thingy of knowledge, and then the, you know, the group that would basically become the Scions with all of our characters. You know, you go to that and you're like, oh yeah, shit, I can see all of this tracking. See all of it tracking forward, and you just get invested in the world, and it's in a way where the gameplay is like not the bit that matters. Now, from what I understand, the change as we go forward in time is the gameplay matters more and more and more, and you start doing those single player duties or whatever.
Duties,
yeah, the single player duties that like are really good. And there's 1 or 2 points, especially as we got a little bit later on, you know, before Operation Archon, but when we're in the zone that eventually the Scions relocate to. Mordana. Is it Mordana?
Yeah, Mordana and Revenant Stole.
Yeah. Where, you know, a few of those, I like no-brained it and died. And I was like, whoa! I mentioned this last stream. And those are the bits where like, oh, I was starting to pay attention to the gameplay. I was like, oh wow, what the hell? I am not used to level up content in an MMO resulting in my death. That's weird. Yep. So it's that thing where you do have to push through some rough bits when, you know, you're preparing the feast for that group of people in the Costa del Sol. And, you know, for me, I was just in one of those, I move forward and do the things, right? Sort of zoomed through it. And, you know, I did actually pay attention to the story that was going on, by the way, don't worry. But, you know, that was a dip. And it certainly has its dips and its low points. But I think the bits that matter, they mostly land. Now, I do think that there is a way where you could massively condense that story. And, you know, where I think right now the story isn't as much the sum of its parts. As an example, for a new player, you know, they'll watch the opening cinematic for ARR, and they won't recognize that loads of those characters are the Scions that they're going to meet. And like at the end of that trailer, you see, you know, the pair of them walking around the forest of Gridania, and then that's like one of the first things my character, you know, as a fresh bard, bumps into. You're not everyone's going to notice that. So it's possible to not get, it's easy, in fact, to not get that ideal experience, especially for the people who are used to just zooming through and skipping cutscenes and stuff. But if you actually,
doing that, like,
if you actually pay attention, you do see those stories to layer up more. And by the time you reach the end, I mean, just that, the bit where, you know, Garuda, I'll just do this. With Ultima Weapon, you're like, oh, and then, you know, as you get more of the moments with Hydaelyn, yeah, you get more of the moments with Hydaelyn, you're like, oh, I'm important. There's stuff going on here. It grows on you and grows on you and grows on you, and by the end, you're in this weird situation. You're like, oh wait, shit, yeah, I actually like these characters. I spent a bunch of time. We went through a bunch of shit together, and I think what's worked very well for it is. It seems like because it just sticks with that cast of characters through. I'm sure there are way more new characters that come in the new expansions and stuff, but because it seems like it sticks with, you know, with this group, it's like you feel that it's worthy of investment because you kind of know that they're going to go the distance with it. So the more and more I played, the more and more I got that sense. And what actually gave me that sense early, and I think it maybe is not like this for some other players, but I took a break at level 30 from Bard, and actually work got really, really busy, and I got a tiny amount of ninja level or rogue leveling, but it was actually the rogue quest, because the rogue quest, it's simple, but for what it is, it's really well written.
Yeah.
The characters are just fun, and I love the colloquial dialogue. It just makes it feel rich, and it just gives you a texture to Limsa that's really there.
You know where your daddles are.
Yeah. And it was just that. I was like, oh, this is the sorts of stories, especially knowing that the person who wrote that.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, all right. I mean,
knowing that she would then go on to lead stuff.
Yeah.
And that just kind of gave me this confidence in the experience. And while I wouldn't say I enjoyed Ninja as much, I did enjoy it. It was fun. It had a satisfying conclusion at what I thought was at the end. Whenever,
have you done your 50 job quest?
Yes, I've got the full purple set of ninja gear.
Yeah.
And there's more ninja quests, as it turns out, afterwards.
Well, of course, they go the whole way up to. They go regularly the whole way up to 70, and then there's 180.
Yeah. So that's cool. And you know, even that was fun. Like Kasuru, is he called? Kasuru? Oh, the
Karasu?
Yeah, he's in the red.
Karasu.
And he was really fun and theatrical.
Yep.
But then it got into the serious shit with what actually went down in the hometown of the shinobi, and you're like, oh, okay, just nice little stories. They're not the most complex, and there certainly are some story criticisms to have. As an example, the Guardian Empire characters. There's Nero. How do you pronounce her name again?
Livia Sans Genius.
There you go.
Livia?
Yeah. Livia with the white armor, but I really like the Guardian armor and designs. Actually, just the creature designs are so much fun. I love the flowy shape language that they've got. But anyway, you know, if we had a bit more time with Livia earlier on, where we could see that she just really has the hots for guys, you know, then we would have got that story instead of her just telling us. Of course, you're well motivated to want to take her out. Let's just leave it at that. And you know, it's sort of similar with Nero and Sid. But you can tell that it's just them. I mean, yeah, making ARR in barely any time while also maintaining, 1.0, and it's in a way where while they don't get to where they're going narratively perfectly in the most, because the pacing is a bit iffy. I think most people would agree. They get the broad strokes right. They get the bits that matter right, and that is why by the time the credits roll, I'm very sold and very in. And then loads of people, and the little tease with Zodiac, and then all of the people on Twitter tell me that the game's only just begun.
That's the best way to put it.
And then it's like, I know, okay, so I've played what they're kind of joking as, the bad bit. And, oh shit, so it only gets better and better and better and better. And that's basically where I'm at.
Yep.
That's where I'm at. I'm trying to think if I have other thoughts. I think it's just the story that they have could be told better if there was just a few little differences, but I get why they haven't done that. But look, it was enough to work for me. I think my expectations were appropriately set because you set them, and basically the whole internet set them.
Yeah.
Because everyone talks about the ARR leveling in the way that they do. I went in with those expectations. In many cases, it was what I expected. In many other cases, I was pleasantly surprised. And in a few cases, I was, very, very pleasantly surprised. Overall, ended up being in a position where I'm in. That's that.
Yep.
And I'm in a way where I just know I can take this game or leave it whenever I want. Because right now, the bit I'm in for is, the narrative. But then I also know, based on watching Discord streams from our FC, from some of the gameplay the guys were showing off, from watching videos of people doing the real big, the savages and stuff later on, you talking about Baja and stuff. I know that the gameplay side, because I already enjoy the ninja quite a bit. So I really know the gameplay side is going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then there's also that thing where I just know that I can have multiple different jobs on my character, and that's really good, right?
Yep.
So, the whole system has came together to work for me.
Yeah, one of the things that it's very important, and someone mentioned this in chat, and I actually it didn't even fucking dawn on me. The only thing that you have done that wasn't released, literally on this day 8 years ago, is the rogue quests. Because the rogue and ninja were added in, I want to say 2.3, I think, but they were added later to start off. But yeah, nope, everything you've done so far was released in one big package 8 years ago today.
Yeah,
which means there's literally 8 years of player feedback and them improving things to go.